Instead of me dicking around, dicking around, dicking around,
Dicking around downtown.
dicking around. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dolce show, UFC Australia fight recap. We got the Bob in the house. What's up, Bob?
What's up, dude?
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So let's talk about it. Let's get straight into it. UFC Australia happened this past weekend. If you didn't know about it, I'm not surprised. The marketing behind some of these smaller UFC events is not so great anymore. I think I'm an industry insider, and I forget these cards are even happening until weigh-ins kicks in, let's say. So the word isn't getting out. That being said, it was a great card. I really enjoyed the fights.
Yeah, there were some good fights on there, some good bangers, you know. The prelims kicked off with a good fight. That was pretty entertaining. So
Who was it?
who was it? Hang on.
Bob. But did you even watch the fights this weekend? Anthony Hamilton versus Adam Weizsack.
Yeah.
Right. So Anthony Hamilton, heavyweights, and like you said, bangers, big dudes. Hamilton's been in the UFC for a little while. Weizsack, relatively new to the organization, and that's what was the final. So Adam defeated Anthony Hamilton via unanimous decision. It was a good fight, right? Big guys throwing big punches.
Yeah, big, strong guys. You know, anytime the heavyweights are fighting in there, it's always a good way to kick off the show. You know?
Yeah, you always want to see it start and end with the heavyweights, which they did, because this was headlined by Fabricio Verdum and Marcin Tybura. Is that the way? Let me make sure I'm saying his name properly. I gotta scroll here. Let's see, Tybura. Yeah, Marcin Tybura. Okay, good. I got that right. I'm jumping the line here. I was impressed, man. That heavyweight fight was awesome. The main event fight, 5-round heavyweight fight, fought at a very high skill set.
The Verdum fight?
The Verdum fight.
Yeah, the Verdum fight. I thought I'm going to butcher his name. I can't.
Marcin Tybura.
Marcin Tybura.
You didn't listen to anything I just said.
I know. I was just zoning out in my own little Bob
birth
world.
certificate.
Yeah. No, but I feel like if he would have thrown more combinations and more punches, he probably would have stopped the fight and finished. You know, there was a couple times where he had him stunned, but if you watch his fight style, he was just like one shot, one shot, one shot, where Verdum was the more active guy throwing combinations, and every time he engaged, it was multiple shots compared to Tybura's single shots, you know. So it's just the volume, I guess, is what really won that fight. You know, and maybe that comes down to his conditioning, I don't know. But the real question is, should Verdum have even fought on the card, considering he was in an altercation that led to, you know, charges being filed against him and such. So if that's a mainstream sport, does he still get to participate on a Sunday if he's a football player, or on a Tuesday if he's a basketball player? Or
Well, let's talk about the incident a little bit, as some people might not know. So during fight week over in Australia, Fabricio Verdum had gotten into a physical altercation with UFC welterweight Colby Covington. And a war of words, one thing cursing back and forth, yeah, but there was physical. There was a physical altercation where, I think we'll say allegedly for now, but you saw the video where Verdum actually throws a boomerang, and I shouldn't laugh, but you kind of have to laugh, because just saying that word. Verdum threw a boomerang, allegedly, at Colby Covington's head, hit him in the head. I don't know where he was throwing it. It just hit him in the face, allegedly. And that's interesting, because in another league, he might not be playing this weekend. He might not be fighting. This is the main event, right? He's the main event. He's the head guy. And Covington filed police charges.
Not only he's the main event, he's a former champion. He's a former face of the heavyweight division, which also has to be factored into the equation. He's just not some guy that is on the lower tier of the card. Like, this guy's always fighting at the top half on the pay-per-views, those type of things. So he's a marketable name, and when you have that type of value, you just can't go around and do those type of things. You got to be a professional. You got to carry yourself with the brand behind you. You know, it's just not about you and, you know, your scuffle with Colby Covington. You're representing a lot more than that, and I think that's where some of the, you know, those thoughts go out the window. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree that we're citizens. We're citizens of the planet, right? There's this certain code of ethics that we follow, and I get it. You don't say it bad about me. You don't know where I come from. or even someone who uses language that is so inflammatory, it does elicit an emotional response. The emotional response still shouldn't be a physical response. This is a society. We live in a society. We can't do that. They're professional prize fighters, these gentlemen. They're professional prize fighters. They, more than most, should have the physical restraint to not result in physical altercation. And that's not to say I agree with the language that was used by Covington in saying what he said about Brazil and other areas.
Well, I mean, take that away. There's things that are said about people every single day. You just can't walk up to them. But it doesn't matter. And you just can't walk up to them and punch them in the face because you said, oh, your country sucks, or oh, your hometown sucks, or you live in a crappy house. Like, life's bigger than that, and professionalism is way bigger than that. So I mean, you know, when it comes down to the paycheck, maybe you got to start finding these guys, pulling them from cards, and then maybe they'll realize, like, hey, I can't act this way, because
there has to be a penalty.
Until you do, there's no, you know. And plus, martial arts is supposed to be like the outlet of curbing, you know, violence, and no, let's go and practice martial arts so we don't have to get into street fights and act like an idiot on the street, and you know, let's protect ourselves and learn how to just, you know, use our actions in a positive way. And you know, what took place in Australia definitely wasn't positive for those guys, for the UFC. You know, that's when I say, when it's bigger than just we're doomed, like trying to protect Brazil. Like, dude, it's bigger than you, bro. You gotta back off. You know, I get it for sure, but can't do it.
Yeah, agreed. So that's, you know, we'll talk about that probably maybe a little bit later on. Let's keep running through the fights. And let's definitely talk about the main event now. We were going to go from the bottom of the card up, but I think it's makes sense to talk about the Verdun fight versus Marcin Tybura, who's from Poland, over here in the United States, training at the world-famed Jackson Winkeljohn gym. That's Greg Jackson and Michael Winkeljohn run one of the best mixed martial arts training facilities in the world. Athletes from around the globe travel to train at Jackson Wink, as they call it. So Marcin Tybura went over there to train with those athletes, which that's where John Jones is from, that's where Carlos Condit is from, that's where Diego Sanchez is from, that's where John Dodson is from, that's where Holly Holm is from. God, that's where 20 other equally famous, that's where Donald Cowboy Cerrone is from. That's where Jody Escobar is from. That's where Keith, the Dean of Mean, Keith Jardine, is from. That's where Brian Stan was from. I mean, Jackson Wink is... Rashad originated there. Yep. One of the best. That's important to say. Marcin Tybura went over, left Poland, left his family, left his world to go over and train at Jackson Wink. And man, he stood in there with former two-time world champion Fabricio Verdun, who's didn't look like he missed a step to me. Verdun. That might have been his best performance.
That's why I was saying, you know, just the volume he threw in the fight is what won him the fight, you know. And I feel like Tybura was making the harder shots and stunning him and doing those type of things, but he's just landing more punches, being more active, you know. And the judges see that. Good fight for sure, no denying that, you know. And the way we're doing moves sometimes, he's light on his feet, man. He's very. It's like a misconception looking at him. You're like, oh, he's a bigger guy, kind of chunky around the waist, like he's not, you know, that good. But when he moves, sometimes you're like, wow, he's got some. He's light on his feet.
Yeah, he's
good movement. You know, you can tell that the kickboxing he's been doing over there is worked out since, you know, he's really evolved since just being the ground guy, the world champion in jiu-jitsu, you know.
Verdun, you mean?
Yeah, Verdun.
Yeah. And Tybura is 32 years old. 32's...
I didn't even realize he trained at Jackson's. It's cool.
Just came over. So I want to say Dan Hardy. I really enjoyed Dan Hardy's commentary. I don't watch as many fights lately, truly. Yeah. And unfortunately, some of the fights Dan is on is the international fights, and I don't get a chance to be exposed to his commentary as much. Excellent insight I felt in listening to Dan last night and talking through the fight, and just, you know, had a very good grasp. And it was interesting to hear his commentary, his breakdown.
Yeah, I think I'm all for having former athletes in whatever sport being the commentaries, play-by-play guy, those type of things, because they can shed insight into what's actually going on in the competition. And, you know, like one of the things in football I like is when there's like a former receiver or quarterback, or Tony Romo is a great example, just retired and is in the commentary booth, and people were giving him slack like, oh, Tony Romo, what's he doing in there? He's never had no experience, but he's been a gold mine just because his ability to break down the play, and like he'll even call out a play like, oh, they're gonna do this before the play even happens, and then they walk up to the line and do that play. Just because he's been in that situation 100, 1,000 times, he knows what to think, what they're thinking, what the coach is thinking, what the coordinator's thinking. Same thing in the fight game. Like, yeah, I agree with you. Dan Hardy can just shed that insight. It's valuable.
Yeah, he did a great job. And John Gooden is not a martial arts guy. John Gooden,
he was the other commentator.
He's the commentator. He kind of holds it together, and he knows when to cut to break, and he knows when to add the Bud Light commercial.
Sure.
And he knows how to introduce things and present things. So he's very good at that. That's his skill set. But like you say, Dan offers great context. This is what the fighter's thinking right now.
Yeah.
This is what he's got to look out for in that position. And shit, this is how it feels to try and breathe in that position.
Yep.
Because Dan's been there before. Dan went 5 rounds with George St. Pierre and fought out of a nasty, locked-on armbar that George had on him, if we all remember.
Yep.
So Dan Hardy's been there and offers great context. I just wanted to add that while we're talking.
Remember, Randy was like the kind of the intro into that after he started doing the UFC broadcast, and Randy was. That's when I was like, oh, that's cool having a fighter broadcast side by side. Obviously, Boss, Boss is the OG, like awesome root for Boss, of course, Pride Days, but Randy in the UFC and the commentary was good.
Yeah, I remember Sport Fight Days. I was fighting Josh Burnham, and Randy was commentating. And Randy's commentating, earphones on, talking in the microphone, probably doing the Joe Rogan, Dan Hardy job. And I'm fighting, and Randy starts coaching me because I'm right. He's like right on the cage apron, I was a part of Team Quest. I had strength coach at Team Quest, but I was a competitive athlete on the team for a little while. And Randy starts coaching me because I trained with him.
From the commentary booth.
My boss, right?
I'm holding the mute button, like
right, my boss. Awesome. And I remember while fighting, thinking like, this is the coolest fucking thing ever. And it had great advice.
Awesome.
So shit, if that mic was hot and he was talking to the crowd, that'd probably be the best commentary ever, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, go on, Mike.
Yeah.
Throw that underhook.
Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome.
So in the co-main event, interesting fight, we had a lady fight between, our women's fight to be appropriate, I believe. We had UFC, veteran, long-time veteran, time-wise. She hasn't had quite a lot of fights. Beck Rollins. And we had Miss Jessica Rose Clark. You'll know her on social media as Miss Jessie Jess. Vegas athlete out here. Beck is from Australia, so she's fighting on home soil, which is always more difficult a lot of the time. Can be a lot more difficult. So your phone's blowing up a lot more.
I feel like they were both Australian.
I think, I'm sorry. Well, you're right. Jessica Rose Clark is from Australia, and then she's living here in Las Vegas. She trains at Syndicate.
Gotcha.
So that was 3 fights, or won all 3 rounds. It was a split decision, great fight, back and forth fight. The ladies certainly get after it. So Jessica Rose Clark wins a split decision over Beck Rawlings. And here's the question, ladies and gentlemen, and this isn't just this fight, but this is 3 other fights on the card. And I'll preface it in saying that 4 athletes missed weight for this card. 4 out of 13 fights had an athlete who missed weight. Nearly 1/3 of the card had a catch weight because of someone missing weight. Those 4 athletes who missed weight all won their fights. They all won their fights. 2 of the athletes who missed weight won their fight by split decision. The eekiest, squeeziest, tiniest of margins. So my question is, and my statement is, the athletes that missed weight often do so as strategy. Now, what does that mean? Sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes it's unintentional. It's just for health, or the athlete just mentally can't cut any more weight. But many times, more often than you'd actually believe, the athletes stop cutting weight, or they plan on coming in heavy. Sometimes it's 3 pounds heavy, sometimes it's 5 pounds heavy. They plan on coming in heavy to have an advantage. Now, if the weight cut just goes great from day 1, minute 1, and the weight falls off, no problem. But as they get towards that Wednesday, waking up Thursday, holy shit, I'm still heavy, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get there. We're going to get as close as we can. And if we miss, we'll give up the 20% because you can kick this person's ass, you should be, or damn, you need every advantage to kick this person's ass because the next fight's the big fight. You beat this person, then you jump. Then you get your name, you make your bones off of this person, give them 20%, it doesn't matter, because you're also going to get the additional 50% win money. You go out there, you kill yourself, and these are conversations. These are, I'm playing out hypothetical conversations, but these conversations happen more often than you might think. And, the athlete not looking too good on weigh-in day, they'll stop cutting early, fuck it, relax, start even rehydrating a little bit. Yeah, sorry, we're so sorry, yeah, we're so sorry. Professional sport, health, I was whatever, sick. And then they're already slingshotting through their rehydration process, sometimes a day early before their opponent. And they get in there and they go out and they win a split decision because the fight is that close. It's that close, it's that tough. And the other athlete, the other opponent cut the weight. They made the weight. They went through those last 3 pounds. They went through those last 5 pounds. They made the weight. And they lose the tiniest, squeeziest, eekiest of decisions. So close it came down to a last scramble. Sometimes it comes down to the last exchange in the last round. You'll see that often. That person needs to win that last round, and they just have a little bit more. And they go and they get it. And they get it and they win it. And it's the best feeling ever. But it wasn't fair. It was not a fair fight. And that's the problem. That's a problem, a culture with the athletes. It's a problem, there's a culture with the coaches, but it's a problem with the sport. I don't know, I can't even be mad at an athlete for doing that because strategy is what the game is about. It's a fight game. It's combat sports. It's how they feed their family. I'm not going to get mad at someone for using the rules because it's in the rules. They can do that. It doesn't talk about intent or motivation. So they're using the rules. Now, I don't agree with it. I've never done it. My athletes have a 100% success ratio. We've always made weight, no matter how tough, no matter how non-compliant the athlete might have been all during training camp. We always made weight. We never use that. I never believed in it. It's a two-part contract. You make weight and you fight. End of story. So for the athletes that missed weight, they gave up 20%. And in some jurisdictions right now, it's only 20% of their show money. It's not even 20% of their win money. And guess what? Half of that, only 10% goes to the opponent because the commission gobbles up the other 10% for whatever reason makes no sense. Think about that. Is that fair? Now, what we've said and what our stance is, what my official stance is, any athlete who misses weight should be fined 50% of every penny they make. And I would even put that into the Reebok deal for their apparel sponsors. 50% of every penny you make that the organization controls goes to your opponent, not to the commission. The commission doesn't get a single percent. 100% of that fine goes to the opponent. Mark Hunt, Beck Rawlings. 100%. And the athlete who misses weight, if you miss weight by 3 pounds or less, you get a 1-year suspension. A 1-year suspension. How many athletes are missing weight anymore? Is this an advantage now? And people, oh, Dolce, that's not fair. That's not fair. Well, what about fucking Beck Rawlings? You want to talk about fair? What about Mark Hunt? And I say Mark Hunt because he was involved in a similar issue with Brock Lesnar. That's in litigation right now, even. So what's the penalty here? Why don't athletes do that? Why don't athletes move up a weight class? Because they're trying to squeeze themselves into a weight class they might have never even made before. Yeah, you get it. You get a 12-month suspension for missing weight. It's a breach of contract. It's a 2-part contract. It's a 2-part contract.
It's just all bullshit.
It's all bullshit.
Nobody cares. They just want the show to go on. It's just like, why the fuck is Michael Bisping, after being dropped and choked out unconscious, fighting, 4, 5, 6 weeks after being,
He was dropped twice and choked out cold,
Unconscious.
less than 3 weeks ago by George St. Pierre for the middleweight title. Dropped twice the accumulation. Who knows how many times he got hit in the head? I'd love to see that stat.
For sure. It's just the damage that took place alone should be enough to ban him from fighting for fucking...
Ban, not, yeah.
Suspended from fighting.
Yeah.
Not 6 months,
Respect,
a year,
yeah,
until you see a doctor. You know, I mean...
3 weeks is no way.
Fighter safety, athlete safety is such bullshit when it comes to MMA, you know, UFC in particular. It's just, you know, there's so many back and forth bullshit things that happen that Brock Lesnar fighting on steroids, Mark Hunt, no problem. The UFC is going to make millions and millions of dollars off of it. Sure, the show goes on. Beck Rawlings getting dicked over, you know, these athletes on this card getting whatever. Bisping fighting a couple weeks later, you know, I mean, there's just no compliance. There's nobody looking out for these guys. They're just on a whim, you know, like you said, they could be having these conversations behind closed doors. Who knows, some of these guys that miss weight could have been hydrating since they never could have stopped hydrating. And just, oh no, I'm trying, I'm doing everything I can. The full time, they know all they do need to do is win, and they're still on the roster. Like, no, you need to be pulled off the card immediately and suspended if you miss weight, because you're signing on a contract saying, I'm going to bait this amount of weight on this day to fight this opponent, and it's agreed to. The other guy's agreeing to it. You both are going through that struggle. Like, it's just no fucking bullshit. It's sorry.
No, I wouldn't go, if it's under 3 pounds, I would let the fight go.
No,
as long as the athlete is healthy. No, let me explain. Let the fight go as long as the athlete's healthy, because the opponent deserves a fight. From a business perspective, the card must go on, and that matchup makes sense. Under 3 pounds is not a health issue. It's a lazy issue.
No, I agree, but it's a professional issue.
And immediately, so they make that 50% payday, which goes to the opponent, and then they receive their suspension. From the time they walk out, the clock starts running. They can't fight again. Now, they know that going into it, so that's the last one. Doesn't do anything for the career. It keeps the card intact. It allows the opponent the ability to provide that performance, because it's not just the win show money. I train 8 fucking weeks. They deserve to fight and put it on the line and hopefully whip that person's ass in order to move forward. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen as we look at this UFC card, because and I'd like to see a deeper stat, but this does make sense because we have 4 different fights.
It feels like every card there's somebody missing weight. Maybe this one, there's just so many guys dropping out due to miss weight, and it's just that part doesn't evolve. They can talk about it all they want. They can build 10 performance institutes and hire, you know, 100 nutritionists that say they're intact with all of their fighters and they're helping them cut weight, but hey, the results don't lie. You guys are all still missing weight. You're talking all this shit and you're still not being professional. It's just, you know what's going to change it is you need somebody barking up their ass during fight week. Like,
they need penalty.
No, they need an alternate. You need an alternate on weight there's 3-4 guys that are signed up for one fight within the same rankings, and hey, you miss weight, guess what? You're suspended for a year, you're immediately pulled off the card, your alternate's going to jump in and weigh in and fight this guy for you. Like, that's what's going to happen, and until there's some type of, you know, reprimand for that, where
the commission doesn't control that.
For sure.
So that's not a state commission. That's the organization. So whether it's the UFC, whether it's Bellator, whether it's, you know, ONE or LFA or whatever else is
there
out
needs
here.
to be somebody. There needs to be an MMA health advisor then created who needs to oversee all this shit and be like, no, Bisping, you're not.
Well, that's
fighting.
a union.
What?
That would be a union.
For sure. There needs to be something more done. Whatever that word is or whatever the motion is, like, these guys got to be protected from themselves. You know, we see that on a daily basis, you know, just they want to compete. These guys are competitors, fighters. This is what they do. They'll jump at the drop of a dime to say, yes, I'm in. And then
Sam Alvey,
same thing.
A month ago.
I'm in. Let's do it. Of course he's going to say that. He's a gladiator, you know. Go back 100 years, this guy's fighting in Rome, like in the Colosseum, you know. That's like, this is what these guys do. It's just unfortunate, man, you know.
So Ryan, on the same card, Ryan Benoit, who missed weight by 3 pounds, he weighed in at 169 pounds. He was supposed to weigh 129. He was supposed to weigh 126. He missed weight. He won the fight after he lost the first 2 rounds and wound up winning the fight in the 3rd round, last round, for a comeback knockout.
Crazy head kick.
Crazy head kick. And man, Benoit is awesome. And awesome. Ashkan Mkhitaryan is a great fighter, right? You know, because he's won the first 2 rounds against Benoit. Benoit is awesome.
That was a great fight. He was
In it.
rocking the Tong Po braid.
Right? Right? But these are tough guys. Benoit missed weight by 3 pounds and won by comeback knockout. Now, does missing weight allow him to come back and get that knockout?
Who's this?
I would say it doesn't. It definitely contributes, because you know, athletes listening, you know the last 3 pounds, the weight cut doesn't start until you get to the last 3 pounds. The last 3 pounds is what you're actually cutting. It's the last 3 pounds. That's where you actually have to work. And hopefully the last 3 pounds, if you're in shape properly, you should wake up on weight, number one. That's the most important thing. Our athletes have dinner the night before weigh-ins and breakfast and start hydrating even before they step on the scale. But nobody does that. So let's talk about the rest of the world. The athletes out there who are cutting weight, you should cut no more than 3 pounds on weigh-in day. No more than 3 pounds on weigh-in day. And that weight should fall off in 30 minutes. Easily in 30 minutes. If you're sweating less than a pound every 10 minutes, you probably already fucked up. You already messed up. Pardon my language. I'm trying not to curse today. But that being said, Benoit missed weight by 3 pounds, which means he didn't even cut weight. And if he was killing himself to get down to 129, well, shoot, you're in the wrong weight class anyway. That means you got to move up. You got to move up. So in this instance, Benoit goes out there. He 3 pounds over. He fights. He fights Ashkan. He gives 50% of his purse, and Benoit won that fight. So Benoit won the fight. He got his show money. He gets his win money. He didn't, and he might have probably got considered for a performance bonus because of the head kick, but he wasn't selected for performance bonus. That should go. His Reebok money should all go to Ashkan. And then he would walk away with a 12-month suspension. So it wasn't just Jess Clark. It was Benoit, who I like these athletes. I like these athletes, but I'm saying as a protocol, if something is not set in, if there's no penalty for the athlete to miss weight by 3 pounds, at 126, the weight class is 126. 3 pounds is a high percentage of body weight, especially when Ashkan cut the weight. And then he won by comeback knockout. So Jess won by a razor-sharp split decision. Benoit wins by a comeback knockout. Does not cutting the weight matter? Yeah, it matters. It matters. But there's no penalty. There's no repercussion. And that's the issue. That's what baffles me. That's what pisses me off. And then everyone acts like they care about health and fighter safety, and they get so fucking animated about individual points. When it comes to the fact of the situation, that's the way you clean it up immediately. You kick them in the fucking nuts with the suspension. You take 50% of their money right off the fucking gate. There's no incentive now to miss weight. And athletes will be incentivized to move up. So they don't have to deal with that bullshit anymore. Now you're getting athletes to fight at their proper body weight because it financially makes sense. These are prize fighters because it financially makes sense. It financially makes sense. They don't want to go a year without fighting, especially if they won. They beat the #1 contender. They missed weight on the way. They got a year's suspension now. They're going to have to fight once or twice more just to get back up to #1 because guys, 5, 6, and 12 jumped in front of them, and now they're the top 3. So they've already slipped because they've been on the shelf that long. All of a sudden, nobody's missing weight anymore. But everybody wants to talk about bureaucracy and throw their fucking 2 cents in that make no sense in reality. It's like with PEDs. First time suspension is lifetime suspension, or first time failure, lifetime suspension. Who's taking PEDs anymore? All of a sudden, all these fucking tainted supplement stories, tainted supplement excuses disappear because athletes no longer will take questionable supplements. They'll actually read the list of approved supplements on USADA's fucking website. That's what'll happen. They'll actually read the list and go, oh, okay, I can't take anything unless it's NSF certified for sport, which is certified by WADA as the credentialing agency to clear any supplements to be used by WADA-tested athletes. Why wouldn't anybody do that? Because there's no penalty. The juice is worth the squeeze. But if it was first-time, lifetime suspension, nobody's doing it. And there's an arbitrator, there's a panel, there's due process, and they really go through the case to make sure it's not some failure of test and some sort of anomaly. So you definitely lean towards the athlete from that perspective, from the process. But at the same time, if in fact it's proven that you did ingest a list of performance, and it's not caffeine, it's not weed, things like that should have a, you know, a long, but a secondary, straight PEDs, steroids, and hormones, and anabolics, and diuretics, and things like that, the higher end, and there's a large classification of those type of performance enhancers. Lifetime suspension. Who's even messing anymore? Who's messing anymore?
For sure.
Mark Hunt's not suing the UFC for millions of dollars because Brock Lesnar was able to skip the USADA pool, jump right back into the UFC without the 4-month drug testing that every other athlete is subject to, allegedly. He just jumped right back in because of some little loophole, beats Mark Hunt, walks away with $2.5 million disclosed, and then it turns out he pissed dirty. He failed for the drug test for performance-enhancing drugs. Mark Hunt's now suing everybody because he's pissed. He wants his cut of the money.
He just wants it to be right.
He wants it to be right, for sure. No, you're right.
He just wants a fair playing field. Like, you want to fight Brock? Cool. Let's just go in there and fight. Like, you're just gassed to the gills, which everybody knew and thought he was. Knew and thought he was anyway. It's not. You're not fooling anybody. They're just fooling themselves, and it's just they just.
That's deer meat and Bud Light, Bob. What are you talking about?
My bad.
I'm just a farm boy.
Yeah, I was born this way. Yeah.
Born this way.
Of course,
Whoa, shit, whoa. Who else we had? We had Nick Lentz versus Will Brooks. Ooh, grudge match. Well, one-sided grudge match, it seemed.
Hold on, can we talk to another point, too, since we're just kind of on a rant?
Rant, go.
MMA bullshit. Why? I just want to know why somebody making their UFC debut is co-headlining a fight card against a person that has a 500 record. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, why are Nick Lentz, who's a 19-time, 18-time UFC veteran, fighting Will Brooks, who's a former Bellator champion, fought in Bellator probably 10 times, UFC a handful of times already, beating top contenders in talks for title contention. Why are they 6 down from the top and a person making their UFC debut fighting on the main card? You know, it's just, it boggles my mind, and that's part of the sport, is they're diluting themselves and diluting their rankings and diluting their viewership by plugging in all of these people they're trying to promote or they think is this good, sexy fight or whatever they're thinking. It's taken away from the appeal for me as a fight fan when I turn on TV and I see people that I have no idea who they are because they're not taking the time to build their brand and they're just shoving fights in our face that they feel are the fights they got to get out there because they have 500 guys on the roster and they need these people to fight. And they're just signing so many fighters that they're not looking at the overall talent level or some of the factors that play into what these guys that poured their blood, sweat, and tears into the promotion, and they're getting dropped to the Sage Northcutt. No offense to Sage, tough guy, but he got put to the forefront of fighting on pay-per-views and stuff like that when there's guys that are on the prelims that should be on the pay-per-view and should be on the main cards, and they're just getting neglected, and that's part of the issue as well. It's just, there's no balance to it, and you used to be able to like, okay, I'm going to watch the previews because I want to get to know some of the top prospects. Now you don't know where to find the prospects because they're scattered all over the card. You don't know like who's the top guy, who's the bottom guy. You know, it's just, you know, that's part of the rant as well.
No, I get you, and that's a good point because I'm looking at these fighters' records. So we had Elias Theodorou versus Dan Kelly. Dan Kelly is an Olympic judoka. Dan Kelly just has beat Rashad Evans. Dan Kelly's record is 13-3, and Elias is 14-2.
And he's fought in UFC 9 times.
9-time UFC veteran. And Beck Rawlins is 7-7, so she's won 7, lost 7. And Jessica Rose Clark is 8-4.
7-4 when the fight happened.
7-4 when the fight happened. So experience-wise, they're definitely on the first third.
She was making her UFC debut.
And
her first fight ever in UFC. So nobody, and my whole problem is, nobody in the world knows who she is because they haven't taken time to build her up. And then they just throw her in the co-main event. Like, I personally not going to watch that. Like, I'm going to go flip to the football game, you know, during that fight. Like, I'm just going to flip to something else until the fight comes on where more recognizes faces because I take the time to, like, invest in prelims and stuff like that because it gets you going for the main event. And then you're just like, who is this in the co-main event? Like, this is just, a bummer. Like, let me go handle that task I had to do. You know, let me go and cook the food real quick, or you know.
Yeah. Well, you said Lentz. Now, Nick Lentz versus Will Brooks. Nick Lentz did receive a $50,000 performance of the night bonus for his performance.
And that fight was built up as a rivalry fight. Like, they hated each other, rival camps, and bad blood from, you know, ATT fallout, like all of that going into the fight. And then they get shoved into the prelims somewhere that you don't even know where to find them, thinking they're going to be on the main event card.
Yeah.
You know, that fight already happened? What?
Yeah. Now, Nick Lentz, his record is 28-8-2, 28 wins, 8 losses, and 2 draws. He has 18 fights in the UFC. He's 12-5-1 in the UFC. Nick Lentz has main evented cards. He main evented versus Chad Mendez. Is that the main or co-main? I believe it was the main in Sacramento. Fought everybody at the top of the cards, Nick Lentz. Will Brooks is a former Strikeforce champion. He beat Mike Chandler twice. Bellator. Will Brooks is 18-4 in MMA and 1-3 in the UFC, 1-2 going into this Lentz bout. Those guys earned. And nothing else. Those athletes, not guys, those athletes earned based upon their time in the sport, based upon the fights that they've had, the opposition they faced, based upon their experience level, based upon the pivotal aspect of this fight. Because Nick Lentz just beat Will Brooks, finished Will Brooks. Nick Lentz now catapults into the top 10 of that division. Now, I know Will Brooks is kind of on his way down and out of that division. Lentz now catapults himself back in to serious contention now with this fight. This was a pivotal fight for the 155-pound division. And this actually puts Nick Lentz pitted with Dustin Poirier. Lentz came out and said that he challenges anybody at American Top Team, which is crazy. I don't know what the bad blood is. We worked with Lentz for quite some time when he was down at 145. Haven't worked with him in a few fights now at 55, so we're kind of out of the loop. Poirier's at the top of 55. Lentz called out the best guys at 55 from American Top Team and wants to fight them next. That sets him up. So back to your point, I agree. I think the fight cards, my personal opinion, the fight cards should be built around time served experience, not based upon physicality, not even based upon fight style. Like, even if an athlete has a slower, workman's-like approach to MMA, they should still be at the top of the card if they're beating the athletes, if they're going through the roster, if they're going through the depth chart. They're beating everybody. They're controlling. They're doing their thing. They've earned the more eyeballs. They've earned the co-main. They've earned the main event. They've earned the pay-per-view. They've earned the top part of the card. Now, that's not to say anything bad about Jess or Beck. They're kicking ass and doing their thing, which is awesome. No, and I think they would agree, as athletes, they would probably agree and likely feel slightly uncomfortable with more experienced athletes at this point competing below them. You know, that becomes a tough one.
Yeah, Shane Young making his UFC debut, fighting above those guys. It has nothing to do with women's MMA. Mickey Gall versus CM Punk. Like, those guys are co-main event, a UFC fight that's like, what the hell am I watching? Like, why am I turning this crap on? Like,
Mickey Gall versus CM Punk that should have been its own, like, 30-minute Spike FS1.
Are you kidding me?
Like, should have been a YouTube video.
Yeah, it's funny. Nick Lentz got buried on the bottom of that card as well. He was fighting third up from the first fight, so he was third on that card, you know, and Mickey Gall's fighting 8th out of 10. You know, it's like, crazy. These guys are making their UFC debut while people who are pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into the sport that think they're climbing the ladder to that significant pay raise or that significant exposure, and then they just get buried at the bottom because of whatever the new draw is, or this guy's making his WWE debut. Like, that is such a farce. And everybody knew going into that Phil Brooks, Mickey Gall, CM Punk fight, like, you know he was going to get his ass kicked.
Yeah.
You watching his training footage, the guy couldn't throw a punch. He's so novice. Like, that's my rant. That's kind of why I root for the guys and watch the older fights, but they're just saturating their talent pool by shoving these fights in our face when they don't build any of them up. That's my whole thing, man. Nothing to do with women's MMA or women in general. It's just, you know,
I agree.
It's the marketing of the prospects.
Because a Ronda Rousey, a Holly Holm, a Chris Cyborg, those ladies deserve
Holly Holm for Chris Cyber. I can't wait for that for UFC 219.
Buying that pay-per-view.
Buying it, yeah. Like,
nobody else is on the card on
hell
buying that
yeah.
pay-per-view.
Like I'm buying a ticket to go see them fight in a little box for sure.
Yep. Agreed. Now I want to move down to the card. Again, we have Frank Camacho defeating Damian Brown via split decision at 160-pound catch weight because Camacho missed weight by 4 pounds. Camacho came in 4 pounds
How many
heavy.
guys missed weight on this card?
4.
Oh my!
And
did all 4 win?
All 4 won.
Oh my god!
You don't listen to anything like that. That's the point of the
I get it.
So Camacho,
Fuck.
he won a split decision again in a slugfest. This is fight of the night, definitely. Huge fight for the division. I mean, the 125-pound division or 155-pound division is getting a lot of attention right now, which is a good thing. Connor's out there floating around with the belt. Nobody knows who the title's, who has the real title even anymore. I know Connor's got it, but shit, you got guys like Ferguson who's waiting to fight for it. Now, Lentz is making noise. Poirier's out there. You got Alvarez versus Gaethje, who are here to fight soon. The 55-pound division just got hot. You got Frank Camacho going out there beating Damian Brown in a banger by split decision, and he missed weight by 4 pounds, so he didn't even have to cut. Again, that's selective, I believe. Now, I wasn't there. I don't know anything. And Camacho's a nice guy. We're social media friends. I like Camacho. I like all these athletes, but for some reason, and maybe he was sick, who knows? Maybe he just, at 9 o'clock came and he had to step on the scale and god darn, they're 4 pounds over and we just mistimed it. Maybe, but that's bad on you, bad on your team, bad on everybody around you for 52 weeks before the fight, for 16 weeks before the fight, for 8 weeks before the fight, for 4 weeks, for 3 weeks, for 2 weeks, for 10 days before the fight. If you're that fucked.
His weight class is 155?
155, came in at 160. Could you imagine?
You know what's so funny is, so his profile, if you go to sherdog.com, his profile is weight class 160.
160.
No offense, it's just kind of ironic.
But again, that goes back to my point. Advantage? Yeah, advantage.
Listed as a welterweight.
And he did what? He kicked up, 20%? 30% of his purse? Big deal. And is that even the full purse? Of most jurisdictions, it's the show money. It's not even the bonus money. Crazy. But great fight. I mean, fun fight to watch. And it sucks that the missing weight has to tarnish it. And even more interesting, Camacho would have gotten the a $50,000 fight of the night bonus. But he was ineligible because he missed weight. And that's one of the good things the UFC actually does. If you miss weight, they remove you from consideration in order to get that $50,000 bonus. I remember it happened to Kelvin Gastelum, the fight after we stopped working together. That story is what it is. We stopped working together. The next fight, he goes out there, amazing performance, but he missed weight, and he missed out on a $50,000 bonus simply because, and this is the athlete, because the athlete just doesn't go down and drop that weight, pull that weight. But I know Camacho has pleaded with the UFC to give the money to his opponent. That's a classy move.
Yeah, that's a good gesture.
Classy move. They won't do it, of course, but that's a classy move. I'm assuming. Why would they? Who else? We had Nadia Kasem versus Alex Chambers. She won via unanimous decision. But again, Kasem missed weight by 4 pounds. She was supposed to weigh 116. She weighed 120. She missed weight. And she went out there and won 2 rounds to 1, 29-27, 29-27, and 29-28. So she won 2 rounds. The other opponent won 1 round. And she missed weight by 4 pounds. Advantage? If you look at the data, very small select group here, but if you look at the data so far, yeah, I'd say so. I'd say there definitely was an advantage to the athletes that didn't have to cut. Now, the athletes that miss weight by like half a pound or by a pound, usually those are the athletes that are damn near dead. They're the athletes who really tried and they just hit the wall. They couldn't get the last little bit off. This is a little known secret inside MMA. If the athlete misses weight by 3 to 5 pounds, they fucking quit. They quit or it was on purpose. If they miss weight within a pound, they just fucking crushed. They hit the wall. They had a problem, usually mistimed it, or they're fucking hurting. Because if you're going to get within a pound, you're going to get it all off and just make the weight and keep your 20%. The ones that it's between, you know, a 1 and 3 pounds, that's a little more subjective. You know, that really depends. But usually they quit. If you're not within a pound, you pretty much quit. And fuck, a lot of athletes quit. You know, a lot of the toughest athlete in the world quit in the process, and not always because it's such a hard cut. Shit, I've seen athletes complain while eating a 6-inch Subway sub, how hungry they are all the time, and this, you know, complaining about their diet and cheating on their diet while eating Subway. So that's a whole nother issue. But remember, it's that right around 3 pounds, 3 or more pounds. That's bull. They didn't even cut. That was intentional. And then we're back to Anthony Hamilton. To the first fight, who else do we have? We had Eric Shelton versus Janelle Lewusa, and he got his first win inside the UFC. I didn't see that fight, unfortunately, but it looks like a good one. Wow, 30-27, 30-26. So it was unanimous. He just ground him.
Yeah, I didn't see those first 3 fights. My first fight I saw was the Frank Camacho versus Damian Brown fight, which was a great fight. Those guys just brawled it out, and you know.
Okay.
But I didn't realize at the time that Camacho missed weight. Had I known.
Yeah. Right? It sucks.
Yeah, for sure.
Sucks. Tai Tuivasa defeated Rashad Coulter via flying knee. I believe he did get a $50,000 the night performance bonus. Gangster.
It's funny, not too long ago you were on MMA Junkie Radio and Gerald was on there. Remember Gerald
Yeah.
started missing weight?
Yeah.
He was like, Gerald was grinding, make weight, he makes the weight, and then like his opponent's over there like a couple pounds over, and he was like, yeah, we're good, we're calling it good. And Gerald's like, no, motherfucker, like, no, you gotta grind it out, you gotta make the weight. If I'm doing it, you gotta do it, you better do it. And what happens, Gerald winds up going out there and destroying the guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now who's to say if that guy if there could have been a different outcome, you don't know.
Absolutely.
You know?
If nothing else, there's an advantage gained. And if there is no penalty, no hard penalty, no strict penalty, if there is no fierce penalty, then it will continue, as it always had. 4 athletes, a third of the card, a third of the bouts on the card were affected by an athlete missing weight. A third, 1/3, 10% would be a problem. A consistent 10% is a problem. A third? Think about that, a third. A third of your eggs are fucked up. Right? A third.
A third of your paycheck is gone.
A third of your paycheck. Oops, a third. A third is a big chunk.
It's a big number.
You know, 1 out of 10. Okay.
1 out of 3 though. That's
right,
yeah, for sure.
That's ridiculous. So what's happening now? Nothing. Nothing's happening now. There's no, okay, we'll take 20-30% of your purse or your show money. No big deal. Fight as you will. Move. Rocket up the charts. These athletes who won will rocket up the division, rocket up the charts right now. They're not taking a step back. They're taking a huge leap forward.
That's it. And
Is that fair?
What happened to the athletes that lost now?
The
some
athletes,
might get cut, some might get, retire. Who knows,
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It is, man. Slippery slope. I'm just all for the alternate, man. Pay another guy out there to make sure he's doing his job in fight camp, and, if he doesn't end up fighting, give him a flat rate. If he does end up fighting and the guy misses weight, the guy should see the one who missed weight. Boom, you're suspended. Whole year, you're out. You can't do nothing.
Yeah.
Or whatever that penalty is, it's got to be for an extended period of time for sure. And then the alternate get to be replaced. Why not?
Yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah.
And then you'd have just rankings. Same style rankings within that area.
Yeah,
simple solution. It just comes down to money. The money and the payments, and you don't want
There has to be a heavy penalty for missing weight, for not fulfilling your contract. Again, it's a 2-part contract. You make weight, you fight. It's a 2-part contract. Make weight, you fight. Done. If you breach 50% of the contract, well, you should probably lose 50% of the compensation, right? That's just fucking business.
If you get arrested for assault charges, you should probably not be able to compete in your professional sport.
Yeah, he wasn't arrested though. He was cited.
Oh, okay.
I believe he wasn't arrested. I believe he was cited. But even still, that's a different conversation. But should he? And this is going back to the Verdum thing. Should Verdum have been pulled from the card, considering the video? I mean, but everyone's allowed their due process, and maybe there's things behind the scene that we don't know, so you have to, you know, open that possibility.
I'm sorry, he got charges pressed against him.
Charges pressed against him. What type of charges?
For assault.
For assault.
Yeah.
The Vulcan from scheduled to fight, and I'm going to pull this from MMA Junkie, I believe. Yeah, UFC contender Volkan Ozdemir is arrested for battery charges in Florida. He's scheduled to fight Daniel Cormier for the UFC light heavyweight world title. This is the UFC #1 contender, Volkan Ozdemir, who, I don't know, all of his social media seems super jovial. It'd be interesting to hear what happened. There's no further information other than he was charged with aggravated battery causing bodily harm or disability. Doesn't say if it was against a male or a female, or if it was domestic, or if he was in a bar fight, or if he was jumped. Doesn't say anything about that. So I'm going to kind of hold opinion until more information comes out. But he's involved in this, and his mugshot's all over media right now.
Yeah, so
yeah, where's
comparing this to another sport in the NFL, Ray Malaluga, who's a linebacker for the Miami Dolphins, just got arrested over the weekend, same as this guy in a bar fight, and he immediately got released from the Dolphins. Released, he's no more playing.
Okay.
You know, probably going to face reprimand from the NFL, which isn't going to matter because he's already released from the organization, so he has no games to play and to be suspended from. But if he gets signed in the future, that suspension's immediately going to kick in, so he's going to be out. Whatever, yeah. You know, and that's the investigation wasn't even like, oh no, pending investigation, we'll make our judgment. Like, no, got released, like this happened, got released. They saw the police report, done. I mean, guys like this are still rostered. It just speaks to the level of, you know, professionalism.
Yeah. Wow.
So same situation, just same timeline.
Yeah.
More or less. So we'll see what happens with that. It's interesting.
It is interesting. We'll see what happens. You know, definitely, it's interesting, and it's nice to be able to step out and give more critical review of the sport that I love, the sport that I'm still heavily associated and participate in, but at the same time, you see all these flaws. Now, obviously, what we did was on the performance side, the weight cutting, weight management, peaking side. So very intimately do we know the conversations the athletes are having with the coaches. We know the protocols inside the organizations, inside the commissions. We know the process. We know what the rooms look like. We know the temperature of the bathtub. We know the athletes who are in plastics and saunas living on distilled water, and we know those that are kind of running fringe techniques. So being aware of everything, the only thing that matters, and knowing the athletes, knowing the industry as well as we do, the only thing that matters is money. Only thing that matters is money. You talk about California State Athletic Commission, who is, I believe, honestly trying to make a difference with weight cutting. They came out with this 10-point system to improve weight cutting, most of which is just bureaucracy. I wonder what their budget is going to be to implement that. I'd like to see that, number one. I think the risk, not the risk, but the cost or the ROI is not beneficial at all. That's the risk on investment, the return on investment. The return on investment will be zero. It will not do anything except make athletes find new ways to get around the system. And what does that mean? It means hydration testing and weight class certification and specific gravity testing. All of these little tests, this is what they do at the high school level. This is what they do at the collegiate level. 20 years ago, I learned how to beat hydration tests as a 13-year-old by my assistant coach, who was a college wrestler at the time. And my whole team wound up certifying like 12 pounds, 15 pounds lighter than we should have. As grown-ups now, shit, you could certify 20 pounds lighter. Simply, legally. It's just a matter of manipulating your water. It's a matter of manipulating your fluids. You just, prepare your body 3 days before the test. You can even do it same day with good results, maybe not peak, but within 3 days, you can manipulate that test so well, you can certify 20 pounds lighter. So what does that do? Well, the commission has to write protocols on it and pay attorneys to overview it and set up commissioners to administer it, come up with protocols and sheets and forms and mailers and all these other things that will cost money, but it doesn't do anything. And 13-year-olds in Iowa right now are laughing at that test. A 13-year-old in New Jersey, myself, I did that along with 20 other athletes and 200 other athletes and every athlete in this state. Everybody was doing it. They all do that. They all know how to do that. So what does that do? The athlete has to weigh in 30 days before the fight, 10 days before the fight, and fight day. That's another interesting one. And the commissioner, because athletes, I'm in Brazil. They're not going to fly a California State Athletic Commissioner to Brazil, so it's a video. So, hey Bob, can you hold the camera while I step on the scale for the commissioner and show him whatever weight he wants to see? Yeah, which scale? You know which scale to use. Yeah, use the white scale. Oh, okay, that scale, perfect. Yep, there we go, here we go. Okay, the commissioner's getting paid. The technology is probably getting purchased, right? Whatever the cost is behind that, that's what's going on right now, I'm sure. Sorry, not sorry. That's probably the most obvious thing. I think fourth graders would know how to beat that test, quote, beat that test.
That's all bullshit too, though. I mean, why are there... Oh, there's a commission in California, and there's a commission in Nevada, and there's a commission in Texas, and there's a commission in New Jersey, and there's a commission in New York, and there's a commission in Maine, and there's a commission in Wisconsin, and a commission in Michigan, and there's a commission in... Where? Everywhere is a commission, and what goes with every commission? A commission's own opinion on what the rules are and what the regulations are and what you can do and what you can't do, and oh, you can do this in Texas but you can't do it in California, and yeah, you can probably do it in Las Vegas. We all generally follow the guidelines of Las Vegas and New Jersey, but we're going to kind of go this way on this one. And New York, we fucked up a couple times, but we're just learning, we're just learning a little bit, so we're going to do this and we're going to do that. It's all fucking bullshit. They're all getting paid. It's just everybody's opinion on what they think is right and how they're going to make their pockets fatter. Why not just have one MMA commission, one boxing commission, and these are the rules, these are the regulations, not state to state to state to state. It's like, it's politics it comes down to, because then each commission is like their own representation in Senate or Congress, like, and then they all got their own way of like implementing their rules and regulations, like, oh, okay, yeah, this is legal over here, but this is legal over there. It's all bullshit. You're just confusing, at the end of the day, you're confusing the fighters. California, you're going to have to like weigh in 30 days out, whatever their stupid regulations are, but in Nevada, you can just like stroll up and just jump on the scale at 8:30 in the morning. You know what I'm saying? It makes no sense. Why do that in California and Las Vegas? And then to break it all down, they have all these rules and they're talking about, and guess what? Guys are still missing weight. You know, athletes are still suffering. People are still losing because people are cutting weights and doing steroids and they're trying to talk all this BS, and guess what? System's still getting cheated, you know? It's just...
The only thing that matters is financial penalty. That's it.
Yeah.
That wipes away all the bureaucracy away. Here, big, huge fine, and you can't fight for a really long time, maybe never. Follow our rules, and you can do whatever you want. Follow our rules. 2-part contract. Agree to the 2 parts. Do the 2 parts, and pretty much control your world, control your life. Is that craziness? Why is that crazy? Why is that so difficult? I don't know. Anything else? I think we wrap it up here.
Yeah.
I like these recaps.
We're good.
All right, guys. We want to thank our good friends at Onnit. Go to onnit.com/Dolce and save 10% off everything on the store. Their Black Friday sale is coming up, so go to onnit.com/Dolce and take a look at my ultimate grocery guide, which is badass. I walk you around. It's actually Aubrey Marcus, Whitney Miller, and myself walking around a local, not organic store, hippie store I call it, walking around a local hippie store with a video camera, just telling you what to eat, what to buy, what to look out for, how to pick your produce and different cuts of meat and things like that, what oils and seeds and snacks to purchase. That's onnit.com/Dolce. I really like that ultimate grocery guide. Also, this podcast is brought to you by 3 Weeks to Shredded, the online membership program. If you want to lose 21 pounds in 21 days, you should consider 3 Weeks to Shredded. That's what it was designed to do, to lose 21 pounds in 21 days prior to mixed martial arts competition, combat sport competition, wrestling and boxing and jiu-jitsu and judo and gymnastics and jockeys. We even have jockeys who do have to weigh in and follow 3 Weeks to Shredded. We've had Sports Illustrated models. Bob, stop smiling. Sports Illustrated models use 3 Weeks to Shredded. Hollywood celebrities, and 3 Weeks to Shredded is the most effective weight loss program ever designed. I say that because the world's greatest athletes use it religiously, and 3 Weeks to Shredded has a 100% success rate with the world's greatest athletes at the highest level of competition. Yes, that is true. So go to thedolcediet.com to learn more, and you can use this promo code Mike Dolce Show to save 10% off. Mike Dolce Show, save 10% off 3 weeks of shredded at thedolcediet.com. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys are awesome. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. We do a lot of live Q&As on there, impromptu live Q&As on Instagram. That's at The Dolce Diet. Follow us on Twitter at The Dolce Diet. And our Facebook page is The Dolce Diet. Appreciate every single one of you. Let's keep it strong, keep it healthy, keep it sexy. Let's set goals and crush life. Remember, don't count calories. Make calories count. Boom!